And welcome to the daily newspaper analysis, an initiative of the UPSConline.com and Ambition IAS. Today we shall be discussing the newspaper of the 9th of January 2018. So coming to the first article, this is an article on the editorial page of The Hindu. It is read as Dark Clouds Across Asia. The opinion is that from east to west, India must brace itself for more disorder across the continent in 2018. Now, the article has been written by Mr. M.K. Narayan, who has been a former national security advisor. So the article in itself is very, very important. But I would like to make a disclaimer regarding this particular piece of editorial that the larger tone of this article is highly pessimistic, which is not something that is welcomed in UPSC answers. So whenever you are writing an answer, you should not bring about the pessimism that is there in this editorial. However, definitely from an analysis point of view and various the dimensions that have been covered in this article, the article is important. So that's about it. And also, this is written in the beginning of 2018. So that is why the entire intent of the article is to show that what are the challenges ahead in 2018. Now, because by the time you shall be attempting your means, it will be almost the end of the 2018, which will be in October 2018. So this is something that you have to interpret as what all, not something that is going to happen, but rather the major foreign policy challenges that India is facing. So you should interpret it in that respect. Now coming to the context of the article, the context is that in specific to the Asia Pacific continent, this is a region of intense geostrategic and geo-economic competition. So this is the tension that is there in this region. So coming to the various regions that have been discussed in this editorial, first and foremost that has been discussed is the problems that are related to China. China and India have had a remarkable the year 2017 is one of the watershed years in the Indian and in the India and China bilateral relations. There have been a remarkable rise in the tension between these two countries. So that is what is the significance of China, and this is going to extend to 2018 as well. So that is one general view with respect to China. Now the issues that have been brought about are, first and foremost, China is a rising superpower. There is rising economic and military power. In China, it is the second highest economic power and almost second or third. It is contentious about Russia and China, but definitely a very, very powerful military power as well. So this being in India's backyard, it is a challenge for India. Also, the year 2017, like I mentioned before, has been a tough year for both India and China. Why? Because of several issues. In the beginning of 2017 itself, India objected to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Further, the two countries had the Doklam standoff. Also, there have been issues on the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is to be passing through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So that is an important aspect. Another thing is related to the NSG vote which China has done against India. Further, on the issue of Hafiz Saeed, how China has prevented and stalled Indian initiatives in the UN. So all these issues in 2017 are a reflection of how tensions are mounting between these two countries. Also, another important fact here is that 2017 marked a change in policy in both these countries, where on one hand China became much more assertive. India too refused to bow down, which was starkly seen in the Doklam standoff. So this is reflecting changed policy, changed stances by both of the countries. So this is a major concern. Another thing is that there is an issue of leadership vacuum being created in a post-Trump America. Now, initially, under the Obama administration, America was very much willing to take up leadership roles in Asia Pacific for that matter, and especially Asia, where the policy of pivot Asia was something that was propounded by the then US government. But now under Trump, the role that US is adopting is highly protectionist, and highly US first, America first policy of President Trump is something that is creating a vacuum in this region, and both India and China are competing to plug that vacuum. So that is a major issue that can probably lead to belligerent stands in 2018. Further, there is a major concern because China has vocalized its global leadership ambitions, which was most recently done in the 19th Congress of the Communist Party of China, which was held in October 2017. So that is another issue. Also, the China-Pakistan nexus, which is being built not only with respect to the China-Pakistan economic corridor, but in various other stances also, these two countries are coming close. And it is often being seen as an axis which is inimically disposed towards India. So that is a major concern. Further, 2018 will also mark the year when China will take control of its major ports. For example, the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, the Gwadar port in Pakistan, which is just right to the Karachi. Also, in Djibouti Islands, which is on the Horn of Africa, here there is a third port that China has. So it is almost something that is akin to encircling in India, if you will see this. So these are very strategic locations which China is covering. In such a scenario, India will definitely have to, adopt some caution. Also, this is in line with the weak tactics of China. Let me mention this because this is a key word, and many a times you can find direct question on using this term. Weak tactics, it is called. This is a game in China, which is the game of encirclement, so which is called weak. So that is the term here. This is a key word. Further, there is a Chinese factor in all of India's neighborhood. India has straining of its relationship with majority of its neighboring countries, and a China factor is something that is common in all these countries. Pakistan, we have considered how China is a common factor. Coming to Nepal, Nepal has a new government, that is the Left Alliance government. This government under the Prime Minister KP Oli has greater bendings towards China, and often it uses a China card. Further, the recent Doklam standoff was at the trijunction of China, India, and Bhutan. So Bhutan in that case is important here. Also, Bangladesh has often been playing the China card. In Sri Lanka, the Hambantota port has been something of Chinese interest. Further, in Maldives recently, China has signed the free trade agreement. So if you will see, all the neighboring countries of India are having a Chinese factor in common. So that is a worrying cause for India. So these are the several issues that are relevant for the 2018 India-China relationships, which have been highlighted in this article. Coming to the second country which has been discussed in elaboration in this editorial, it is Pakistan. Definitely the year 2017 has seen a stark downfall in relations between India and Pakistan. There has been a 200% increase in ceasefire violation across the LOC. Further, there has been infiltration which has marked a 4-year high. Also, the year 2018 will be an election year in Pakistan, and 2019 will be the election year in India. So in that respect, again, politicization of India-Pakistan issues is something that is common practice in both the countries. So relationships are dubious to have improved. Also, the China factor in Pakistan, I have mentioned before. The recent, factor, that is of US aid to Pakistan, where the President Trump of US has openly criticized Pakistan for playing double games and has US has withheld its aid to Pakistan. In that respect, China has plugged that vacuum, and China has almost committed $100 billion of aid to Pakistan in the CPEC program. So therefore, definitely this is a major issue. Also, continuing terror attacks in India is something that is worrying to India, as terrorism in India is largely emanating from Pakistan. Another thing is that of the most significance in the current relationship is that of Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav. The issue is festering one, and in 2018 some decision on this issue can be expected. So therefore, again, there is a possibility of tensions between the two countries. Now, also the policy that India has taken against Pakistan is that of isolationism. So that is something which has further stalled talks. SAARC, which is an important platform for India-Pakistan collaboration, is something that is in cold storage. So definitely relationship in this front is again something that needs to be flagged. It is a major cause of concern. Now, coming to the third area that has been mentioned is the Korean Peninsula. Definitely, this is a region of tension because of the nuclear program of North Korea and the nuclear standoff that is happening between North Korea and US, which also includes stakeholders like South Korea and Japan. So definitely there is no peace in this region. This is a tense region, and there is lack of clarity as to what will happen, though definitely some improvements are being seen where negotiations have restarted between North Korea and South Korea, but still what will be the future is something that needs to be decided. Now coming to the fourth zone, which is an important zone again, is that of West Asia. Now several concerns in this zone exist. First and foremost is that of Syria, which has almost ceased to be a state in the present times. Further, there is a proxy war in Syria which is being held by heralded by US as well as Russia. Further, the Sunni Saudi Arabia versus the Shiite Iran is something that is a festering problem and a continuous problem between these two countries. Also, the Iran deal is something that is being relooked by the post-Trump America. So the deal is something again which has had a setback in the modern times. So that is a cause of concern. Further, there is a war in Yemen. There has been disruption in the in various associations of these countries. Further, there is an upheaval in Saudi Arabia and Iran, which is something festering. Also, the Jerusalem issue is something that the recent announcement by US that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel is something that is going to send tensions across the Arab world and will have ramifications on destabilizing West Asia. So definitely West Asia is at the crossroads today, and destabilization is hovering over this region. So this is a major challenge for the continent in the near future of 2018. Further, the furthermore problem that is of tremendous concern for the entire continent is Afghanistan. Afghanistan is at one of the most vulnerable stages where it is facing a danger of imploding. The government is weak and the US forces are withdrawing from Afghanistan, and this is going to this can serve as a ground for resurgence of various terrorism groups like the Islamic State and the Al-Qaeda. So that is something that is extremely worrisome for all the major countries in Asia. That is stability in Afghanistan. It is a cause of concern. Now also, in the backdrop of US openly criticizing Pakistan, there is a possibility that Pakistan can withdraw from the peace process in Afghanistan, which can further cause spiraling down of all the efforts, or that even India has had stakes in the peace process of Afghanistan. So definitely this is another area which is of concern. So these are the basic areas that the author has discussed in his editorial, and these are the important areas which reflect the challenges of 2018 foreign policy for India as well. So that is the importance of this editorial. With this, we'll move on to the next article. The age of crypto economics. The opinion given by the author is that the fundamental value proposition of the blockchain is that it eliminates the need for trust. Now, the context of this article is that cryptocurrencies is something that have risen across the world, and even in India there is a rise in cryptocurrencies and their usage, and it is against these cryptocurrencies that a warning has been given both by the RBI and the recent one by the Finance Minister and the Finance Ministry itself. So 3 warnings have been given by RBI and 1 recent by the Finance Ministry. So this is the context of this editorial. Now coming to the background of Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. This is an important aspect of today's discussion because this is the basics of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Now, first and foremost, I would like to begin with something called digital money. Now, digital money in simplest of terms you can understand is the money that you are using which is not in physical form, rather it is in a digital form. For example, the money that we are commonly using through Paytm or Airtel Money, many such podiums are there where the economy is going cashless now. No more money is going to be preferably used in the physical form, and rather it is going to be digital. Now, one aspect of the digital money or the digital economy is that the money that we are commonly using, like the Paytm or the Airtel money, it is the money that has been regularized by the banks, the central bank. So this money is centralized. This economy is largely centralized. Now, If this money is not centralized, it is not regulated by any bank, then that kind of digital money is what is decentralized digital money. And it is under this forum of decentralized digital money that we have what is called as cryptocurrencies and virtual currencies. Now, what do you understand by a cryptocurrency? A cryptocurrency is a digital asset that has been designed to work as a medium of exchange. Also, the name cryptocurrency is largely coming from the use of the technology of cryptography. This is a cryptic technology which is based upon codes. Secret codes are used in this technology, so that is why it's called cryptography. And it is this technology which is used to secure transactions, to control creation of additional units, and verify the transfer of assets. So any currency which is using these cryptic codes is what is cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin is the first ever cryptocurrency. So that is what is Bitcoin. There are many other forms of cryptocurrencies which we will discuss in a further discussion on the editorial, but Bitcoin is the first, and as a result of which often cryptocurrency is considered synonymous with Bitcoin, but there are many other cryptocurrencies. Now, what do you understand by virtual currency? A virtual currency is a currency which is any form of digital currency which is unregulated. It is issued, used, and controlled by a virtual community. So, like for instance, the money that we have in Paytm is regulated by the RBI. It is being used by a known community. Whereas in a virtual currency, neither that money is going to be generated by a particular central authority. It will not be regulated. It is unregulated, and this money is used by a community which nobody knows about. So it is a virtual community. This is what is known as the virtual currency, and Bitcoin is both cryptocurrency as well as it is a virtual currency. So that is about these two key terms. Now, coming to the history of Bitcoin. The first Bitcoin came into existence in the year 2008 by a person named as Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, this is a pseudonym, and it is not known whether this is one person or is it an organization, but till now it is just said that by this person, by the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, is the inventor of Bitcoin. Now, some history of Bitcoin is that 2008 was the year of financial crisis in the US. And if you know some history of the 2008 financial crisis in US, you will know that it was a crisis due to subprime lending by the banking sector in US, which created an artificial bubble in the housing industry. And it was later that this bubble burst, and it had a chain effect across all the banks and investment banking companies in the US, which required for something called the bailout program. So the government had to bail out a majority of banks in US. This resulted in a loss of trust in the banking sector. And it was this loss of trust in the banking sector which led to one person, Satoshi Nakamoto, to come up with a newer solution, which was that of Bitcoin, which was ideally based on the fact that it will be a unregulated mode of exchange, as well as it will be a trustless mode of exchange, because it will be based on electronic transactions and it shall not depend upon the trust factor, which is a subjective one in case of the banking industry. So this is the entire history of Bitcoin. Now, another important term that is continuously emerging is blockchain technology. Now, what do you understand by blockchain technology? In the simple terms, we need to understand this figure here. Suppose in a normal economy, if a person A has to maybe make a transfer of 100 rupees to the person B, what he does is that first and foremost, his transaction that is to be made to B goes to the bank. The bank verifies it, and this money is sent to B. So there is an intermediary present over here. This is the bank. Also, this transaction is being recorded in the centralized ledger. This ledger is the term ledger probably here, for those of you who do not understand, this means a public database. So whenever a transaction is being made, suppose I have only 1000 rupees in my bank account and I want to give it to person B. Now obviously they can be used only once. If there is no record of my sending this 1000 rupees to person B, in such a scenario I can misuse this 1000 rupees I can, give it to 3-4 more people. So that is an issue which calls for the need to ensure that this transaction is recorded and it is maintained. So this is the role of a centralized ledger. However, whenever a transaction is happening of a cryptocurrency, or for that matter a Bitcoin, what is happening is a decentralized currency for that matter. The money that A is sending to B is happening through a decentralized ledger. That means there is no intermediary, there is no bank here, and the transaction is being recorded on something called as a decentralized ledger, and it is this technology of decentralized ledger which is the blockchain technology that we are talking about. Now, what happens in this blockchain technology? You should have some rough idea. Instead of one ledger, like in this case, there are many ledgers here. Suppose this is a network of all the peers who are transacting within themselves. So these peers will have different nodes. These are called nodes, and this is also the ledger that is present. So when a transaction is happening at a decentralized level, it is being recorded at all these nodes. And these nodes are not only recording, they are also authenticating and verifying this transaction, and it is only after this authentication that the transaction happens. So this is a very complex technology based upon algorithms, and it has a network of checks and balances, and this is something that is unregulated, and it is decentralized, and it is self-sustaining. So this technology is something that has gathered majority of interest of people. So this is another issue that is important in the Bitcoin analysis now, that in earlier where Bitcoins were largely being feared of, is now being viewed as a technological revolution because of the blockchain technology that it is using for Bitcoin transactions. So this is the background of this topic. Some data that I would like to read out from the article is that the blockchain technology bundles data about transactions into blocks. It timestamps them and links each new block with the previous one in an immutable chain of blocks which are copied, authenticated, and updated continuously, and publicly on thousands of computers. So this is the entire idea of blockchain technology. Now, the people who are doing this authentication are volunteers. And what is the incentive for these volunteers to update data on the various blocks? Is that they are incentivized by a payment in the form of a Bitcoin. This is through a process of Bitcoin mining. So that is what you have to understand about the background of Bitcoins. Now, coming further to the issues that have been discussed in the article. The first issue is the issue of distrust. As I had mentioned before, that the very birth of Bitcoins can be attributed to the distrust in the public sector, in the banking sector, in the banks, which happened in the US in the aftermath of the financial crisis. So definitely the issue of distrust is something that is causing for growth of Bitcoin as well, because this distrust is not something that has been done away with. The market for using Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies is ever enlarging. So that is one issue. Another aspect that the author has brought about is that now, because of the rising benefits of Bitcoin coming to the fore, various central banks are coming up with such currencies. For example, the central bank digital currency. But however, this idea of central bank digital currency is something that is, not bound to have so much of success, says the author, because the prime idea of deregulation and decentralization is not something that is inherent to this idea, and as a result of which this cannot compete with the Bitcoin. So that is the issue of distrust. Further, the article is largely an analysis of the benefits of Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. That is the crux of the various benefits are that first and foremost, Bitcoins is an efficient currency because it does not have problems like double spending or problems. It has protection, it has efficiency, and as well as cost effectiveness is something that is a part of Bitcoin. Further, it does away with the bank's role as an intermediary. So that is another benefit of it. Another aspect of the Bitcoins is that it is something it is acting as an attractive store of value. However, there are warnings by the government that this is highly speculative, but an argument has been given that bitcoins are only a limited number. For example, there is a cap on number of bitcoins, which is 21 million. Out of these 21 million, 16 million have been mined, and approximately 5 million are left to be mined. So, because of the fact that bitcoins are a limited number, the idea that the governments are advocating that the bubble around bitcoins can burst and the value can really come down is something that the author is denying, that this cannot happen because of the limited number of bitcoins. The value is bound to rise only and it will not come down. So that is one argument that has been given. Further, there is an issue of how bitcoins can ensure disciplining the states. Now, because of the centralizing authority of the RBI, or for that matter the Federal Reserve in US, there is a tendency of these banks to regulate the economy through policies like quantitative easing. This policy, for example, I had discussed previously also in one editorial, that how the Federal Reserve's policy of quantitative easing is something that has been criticized globally because it impacts the global economy. So some states are using this centralizing authority as a means to bully others. So that is something that is a cause of concern, and this can be done away with the Bitcoin. Also, the privatization of currency is something that is going to ensure a next stage of neoliberal economy. This, marketization is all about privatization. Now, currency was something that could not have been privatized till date, and now it is a newer stage where privatization of currency is happening. So definitely it is a new stage in capital economy. Further, the decentralized ecosystem and payments infrastructure will help in ease of doing business. This is definitely one advantage of bitcoins, and which even India wants to explore. International transactions will become easy, so that is definitely one advantage. Further, this is a programmable money because this is not a physical entity, rather it is a software. So if in the programmable money we add a provision that the money can buy only a few commodity, then that will be in the program of the money. So in this regards, it is useful because it can be limited to purchasing few items as compared to the lack of regulation with respect to the normal physical money. For example, physical money can buy drugs also. So if that is not something that physical money, in case of physical money, you cannot control this tendency of the money, but in bitcoins, which is a programmable currency, in that you can control, and you can have a software that the programmable money cannot buy drugs. So that is one advantage that you can use it for. Another advantage and benefit of bitcoins is especially in the area of artificial intelligence and an Internet of Things. Now, because if you have to understand what Internet of Things is, it is something where all the devices are interconnected to each other. So that is something what Internet of Things is, and this will require that thousands of devices will need to rapidly and seamlessly transact with each other. So in that scenario, this technology of blockchain transactions and blockchain technology can be of utmost use. So there it has its usage. Further, there is enormous scope for increased efficiency and cost savings because banking sector is something that is taking its own commissions in allowing transactions. So that cost can be saved, and as a result of which digital cryptocurrencies are one amongst the biggest threats to businesses in the finance sector. So that is another major concern. Also, the loss of power of the governments is another issue that is of concern with regarding to Bitcoin. It is for this reason that many countries like the US and South Korea are looking into regulation of these currencies to maintain their hold on the economy. So that is another aspect. Now, an opinion has been given by the author which is of value here, that definitely some degree of regulation in this respect is important, because cryptocurrencies provide something called anonymity, which is not a very common virtue in in regards to crypto, in regards to economy. So whenever anonymity is provided in such a scenario, currency can be even misused for terror financing or for crime. So in that regard, definitely some regulation on this usage of cryptocurrencies is warranted. But however, the entire spirit of cryptocurrencies is that of deregulation and decentralization, and in any case, this aspect of this currency should not be taken away. So that is an important analysis that has been given. Further, so that is the opinion that has been given. Also, that another opinion regarding the cryptocurrencies is that it will ensure more democracy. Why? Because anything that ensures more decentralization will ensure democracy. But an opinion that the author has given, that this democracy is not something that is going to result in socialization. It's not a socializing principle, because it is based upon market rules itself. So that is another analysis that the author has brought about in this particular editorial. The editorial is important for a comprehensive understanding of Bitcoins. Question definitely in this regard is expected in the UPSC mains. So with this, I'll come to the next article. Data theft. The opinion is that the UIDAI expose is another reminder of the need for a robust data protection law. Now, the article is not very important as of now. Definitely few more editorials on this issue will come in the future. So analysis aspect will be dealt with there, but still some points are important. Some issues have been raised in this article, which is important. So coming to the context is that the recent expose by the newspaper The Tribune, which was published after accessing Aadhaar's database of names, phone numbers and addresses. So this expose is the context. Now, some issues that are arising from this this entire piece of news are, first and foremost, sting operations and the issue of ethics. Now, this is a means versus end debate in ethics. Definitely, it is for achieving a good end that a sting operation is being held. But this sting operation has some ramifications on the privacy, some unethical means to, do the sting operation. So, in that context, this is an ethical issue and it becomes important. Further, there is a question of public interest versus the data leaked. Now, these people have gone ahead into getting the data leaked, but this was to show that the public interest is in question, but they have published some data which again is a threat to the public interest. So it is a complex situation related to this expose that is in question. Further, a case has been filed against these journalists for cheating under impersonation by the UIDAI. So question is being raised on the validity of this, this complaint against the journalists. Also, an issue is that of whistleblowing in this regard. So that is important. Another aspect is that the issue for free public spirited journalism and holding public authorities and institutions accountable is something that is being brought about in this particular act, because often the public authorities and institutions are not being held accountable due to oppression on journalism. So the free spirited journalism, which is the bedrock of any democracy, is something that needs to be encouraged in this case and not discouraged. That is the opinion that has been brought about. Also, another aspect of that, a clarification that has been given by the UIDAI is that the information that has been acquired was a mere information of phone numbers and addresses and not the crucial biometric information. And the UIDAI in its defense has said that this information is already present with various telecom companies, so it is not of very much critical importance. So that is one defense that has been given. However, this does not undermine the fact that there is a need to secure information, especially when it's with a public body, because a large amount of trust is associated. Also, this is the important part in the entire editorial, that is the opinion, which is that India does not have a legal definition of what constitutes personal information and lacks a robust and comprehensive data protection law. Also, the issue is important in the backdrop of the recent Supreme Court judgment of August 2017 that privacy is a major part of the right to privacy is a major part of the fundamental rights under the constitution. So in that regard, this entire issue becomes important. So these are the definitely some issues that we can highlight in this editorial, but I am sure that future editorials in this regard will bring more clarity. So, before we end, some piece of information. We have started a UPSC Prelims Cum Main classes from the January 21st, 2018. It shall be covering all basics, including NCERT, daily newspaper, prelims test series, and mains answer writing. So, all interested candidates, please get in touch with us. Our contact details are here. This is our address and this is our phone number. So, with this, I finish today's discussion. I thank you all for watching this video and I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.